Hi guys, just another system overview. This time it's of one of my favourite consoles ever, the Sega Dreamcast. It was released in 1998 in Japan and later in 1999 in the West. It was the first entry into the 6th generation. It preceded the Sony PlayStation 2 and the Xbox and the GameCube, and it ended up selling 10.6 million units until 2002 when it was discontinued. Sales of the Dreamcast initially were really good. However, it was the sales stifled when the PlayStation 2 was announced, and even more when the Xbox and GameCube were announced as well. This stifle meant that Sega eventually come to the realisation that they couldn't compete with these mega companies, and this eventually would be the last ever Sega console, which is quite sad really. Consoles were actually sold in Japan until as late as 2007. Games were actually released all the way until 2009 in Japan as well. There's new games released all the time. It's actually got a thriving homebrew market, both with the hardware and also playing online. The servers for the Dreamcast obviously ended when the console went out of production. However, as of now, it's supported by people who run their own servers. I think Red Spot Games is one. The Goat Store is another. I personally use the Goat Store, but yeah, there's some, it really was ahead of its time. It was the first console to support online gameplay, compatible with Windows CE. I'm not sure if anyone ever had Windows CE, but it was compatible with it anyway. First console built-in modem, first console to support online play. Really was so far ahead of its time, it's unbelievable. With a lifespan of only 3 years, it's hard to think how much of an impact this console would have made. But it's, like I said, it's been hailed as ahead of its time. First of all, the games that come out, it saw many releases of games that have been considered, the most creative and innovative games of all time. No console, nothing in gaming history has shone so brightly in such a short space of time as the Dreamcast. Like I say, considering it was 3 years, there were some really good games for this. Games that pioneered. Shenmue, it was the first game with sort of on that sort of scale. Shooters were unbelievable on Dreamcast. Games like Jet Set Radio popularised the method of cell shading graphics. Fighting games were brilliant. I think like Soul Calibur, Capcom. If you haven't seen the video for defining Dreamcast games, definitely take a look at that. That just proves how good some of the games were for it. As far as modern casual gamers go, the Dreamcast has left more of a mark on the gaming world than any other console before it, possibly even more than 2600. It introduced a number of features that are standard in consoles today. Like I said, all models were shipped with internal modems that allowed users to browse the net like no other console had been able to do before. I mean, consider this came after the N64. It just proves how much of an advance this was, both graphically and internally, with the modem, etc. Games, you could play the games online. Games like Phantasy Star Online, it was a huge open world game. But if it wasn't for that, you could say maybe games like World of Warcraft for the PC wouldn't exist. Choo Choo Rocket was the first online multiplayer game ever released, and I think it was Alien Online or Alien Front Online, something like that, was the first online game to feature live in-game voice chat. And everyone knows how everyone loves that. I love going on Call of Duty and Halo or getting called all sorts of derogatory names by 12-year-old Americans. So thanks a lot, Sega. But yeah, seriously, on a serious note, the Dreamcast was far ahead of its time. It was as if Einstein would have been born in the same time as Jesus or whatever, I don't know. It really is. It's so far ahead of its time, it's unbelievable. And it was voted, I think it was voted 6th best console of all time by IGN, and I think that's really an understatement in my opinion. It's definitely in my top 2 or 3, just for the fact some of the games on it most of the games on it are so unique, you can't get any of the games on other consoles. I know Jet Set Radio was released for the Xbox, but it's just not the same. Games like Res, where else can you play a game like that? Well, at the time anyway, you can play it on the Xbox Live Arcade now. Actually, that's another thing. A lot of the Dreamcast titles are available now on the Xbox Live and PlayStation Network Arcade. I think the first 2 games released were Sonic Adventure and Crazy Taxi, both great games. And it's followed by Sega Bass Fishing and Space Channel 5 Part 2. I've never played that, but I'm sure it's good. A lot of independent games are still being released, like I said, through Homebrew, so it's definitely a really thriving market. Another thing I'd like to mention is the graphic capabilities of the Dreamcast was really good for the time. Like I say, considering what was out at the time, it really was. Again, I keep saying it, but it was so far ahead of its time. Something that makes it stand up, in my opinion, to graphics of today is this. The Dreamcast VGA box. If you haven't got one of these, you're picking up for about £15, £20 on eBay. They really are. You wouldn't believe the difference it makes to the graphics. Games like Res or Ikaruga, it really does take your breath away with one of these. Basically, that plugs into the back of your Dreamcast, and you have a VGA. If you have a VGA port on your PC monitor or on your TV screen, pull it in like that, and it really does make a huge difference to the graphics. And believe me, you will notice it. So, to sum up the Sega Dreamcast, in my opinion, it's so underappreciated in the gaming industry. If it wasn't for this, the gaming industry wouldn't be like it is today. And it's kind of a shame, really. It's sort of the love child that no one wanted. No one appreciated it at the time. But people are starting to realise how important it was. And like I said, nothing has ever shone as brightly as the Sega Dreamcast.